Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to Jets Media. This is Richie, and welcome to the first episode of the brand new series here on Jets Media, where we break down each individual position group on the New York Jets. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, we're going to be breaking down the offensive line with a special guest. You guys all know him as Matt O'Leary. I'm really excited because I got a lot of special guests lined up for this position breakdown series. We're going to be breaking down the offensive line depth chart, the starting five, the depth, and then in future videos, we'll be talking about the wide receivers, the defensive line. You guys all know the drill. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video if you guys enjoy. With that being said, let's add the man, the legend, Matt O'Leary to the show. Matt, what's good, my man?
Not too much. Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. And as we were saying beforehand, before we got started, it's a little deja vu. Didn't we do this a couple years ago too?
So, funny story, guys. The first time I've ever did any sort of collaboration on Jets Media in terms of me collabing with another Jets YouTuber is Matt, which I'm pretty sure was 2020 or 2019. It was the first Jets Media was really small, and I reached out to Matt and like, hey, Matt, I love your channel. Do you mind like hopping on Jets Media and we'll talk about offensive lines because I have an idea of doing position breakdowns, and you were really happy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a blast then, and happy to do it again now.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years go by, and we're still talking about the Jets' offensive line. And let me say this real quick. I think that we are in a really good state of this offensive line now and where we were a couple of years ago. So before we dive into the depth chart and dive into the starters of this position group, Matt, what's your thoughts of the offseason acquisitions that Joe Douglas brought in the draft and in free agency when it comes to this offensive line?
Yeah, I think the big one for me is Laken Tomlinson. And I know that's such a cop-out answer because, that was the headline one, but it's going to be the most impactful. He's going to be your starting left guard. They are going to move vera-tucker over to the right side, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But this is someone who was a Pro Bowler last year. And I know the Pro Bowl doesn't have the same value that it once did, but this is a really good offensive lineman who's going to come in here and help solidify this offensive line. And something that I think I'm looking forward to the most with him is his run blocking ability and having vera-tucker on the right side and just everything else that comes with this addition. I just think the Jets offensive line, specifically from a run game perspective, is going to increase dramatically with this addition. And I can't wait to see him on the field.
Yeah, so Laken Tomlinson was the big ticket free agent acquisition the New York Jets brought in. Here's the graphic of my projected starting five of the offensive line. I couldn't find a picture of Laken Tomlinson wearing a Jets jersey, obviously, because he's a free agent. So why not get him wearing that Pro Bowl jersey from last year? Because he is indeed a Pro Bowler. So, Matt, on paper, this is the starting five of the offensive line. How do you feel? Does it look like an offensive line in a collective unit where you feel optimistic heading into this year in 2022?
Without a doubt. I think if, as you have it projected, all these guys are playing and healthy, this should be a top half of the league unit. I think if you look at it, you can make the case that the quote unquote weakest link is Conor Mcgovern at center. And that's not a bad thing. I would say he's a league average center. I don't think he's, a phenomenal top 5 to 7 guy in the league, but somewhere around the middle of the pack, which is fine. And especially with the addition of Laken next to him, I think that will only increase his play. But overall, like I said, from as a run blocking perspective, I think they're going to be one of the best run blocking lines in the league. Pass protection, maybe a little bit questionable at times, but overall, this is a drastic improvement from going back from, 3 years ago to where they were the year before that and last year. I can't wait to see this unit on the field. I think they're going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Douglas came here, and his number one goal was to make sure this offensive line is completely revamped. If you guys remember, the first offseason Joe Douglas had with the New York Jets, he brought in 5 brand new starters. He completely just wiped it clean, and now we have this offensive line on paper that I'm really comfortable with. So the first player I want to talk about individually with you is Makai Bechten. If you guys cannot tell what jersey I'm currently wearing, yes, I do own a Makai Bechten jersey. Yes, I still believe in our fella, and I know Matt O'Leary does as well. So what's your expectations from Makai Bechten heading into year number 3? We found out today, actually, that Makai Bechten should be good to go for mandatory minicamp. Obviously, he's not been there for voluntary OTAs because of the birth of his first child. So what's your thoughts of Makai Bechten, your expectations from him heading into year number 3?
Yeah, I can't. This is someone else I can't wait to get on the field. Number one is health. Obviously missing all of last year. That's going to be the first thing that comes to mind. But if he's healthy and even 85% the player he was in his rookie year, I think the Jets will be in really good shape. I think a lot of fans, or the ones who are really down on Makai, I feel like they're so quick to forget just how good he was as a rookie playing left tackle. Um, and again, obviously last year there's a ton that went into it with the injury and missing time. It sucked. It really did. But with him coming back, I think he has a chance to be one of the better tackles in the AFC. And maybe he does move over to the right side, but I don't look at that as something like a failure or anything from where he was drafted. I just think that's how the cards played out. You had George Fant come in last year, played really well at left tackle. I could see the Jets not wanting to mess with that. And if they do decide to move Makai Bechten over to the right side, it's a position that he's played at college and really thrived at. And with Elijah Vera-Tucker at right guard now coming up, you still have that combination of Bechten and AVT. And that's a great 1-2 punch on your offensive line. And if it's on the right side, so be it, man. I just want to see Brees Hall and Michael Carter running behind those two units on the right side.
Yeah, that's what's really getting me excited for the potential of Makai Bechten lining up on the right side of the offensive line is because AVT, like you mentioned, is now going to transition from left guard to right guard. And why not keep those players that we drafted in back-to-back years next to each other to really gain that chemistry? And so my next question for you, Matt, is the offensive tackle position. The left tackle is up for grabs. Robert Saleh has not named the starter at the left tackle position. Obviously, we know it's between George Fant and Makai Bechten. And I think George Fant is one of the most underappreciated, undervalued players on this entire team because what he did last year was absolutely spectacular, especially protecting the blind side of Zach Wilson on that left tackle position. And so with that being said, I know you say you don't really have a problem with Makai Bechten moving to the right side if that does happen, but if you had to predict who's going to be the starting left tackle come week one?
Yeah, I think it is going to be Fant, just because of how well he played last year at the position. And when the Jets signed him, he really, I should say, wanted to play left tackle, and that's what he was signed to do. And he moved over to the right side and was okay. But last year at left tackle, he was really good. And I just think like don't mess with a good thing unless Makai is significantly better in camp or George Fant regresses, then okay, that's a different scenario. But if he's playing as well as what he did last year, I don't think you mess with it. I think you keep him on the left side.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, especially when you're getting a Pro Bowl left guard in Lincoln Tomlinson. You want to keep the veterans together. You want and then keep the two budding stars next to each other on the right side. So if it does become George Fant on the left tackle position, Makai Bechten on right tackle, I am going to be pretty excited because those two tackles could be legit. Now, kicking over to the inside, what is your thoughts of the combination of Lincoln Tomlinson and Elijah Vera-Tucker? Because I honestly say that these two could potentially be one of the best guard duos in the league. And I don't want to be that Jets fan that's just being biased and being over the top. But if you look at it on paper, you see Lincoln Tomlinson rocking that Pro Bowl jersey right now, Matt. We all know when we drafted Elijah Vera-Tucker, he has Pro Bowl potential. So what's your thoughts of the offensive guard position when it comes to both Lincoln Tomlinson and Elijah Vera-Tucker?
I agree with you. And I don't think that's, looking at it through the green lenses of being a Jets fan. I think this could be one of the best guard duos in football, specifically from a run blocking perspective. AVT could probably still use a little bit of work in pass protection, and Laken Tomlinson, that's not his strength in pass protection. He can get by, but he's much better as a run blocker. I think they're going to be nasty. I think they're going to help Conor McGovern get better as well. And I just think they have a very similar style of play in my eyes, where they're very physical and dominant in the run game, and it very much so feels like the Jets have a type, and that's what they're trying to build out here on this offensive line.
So, as we know, Matt, as Jets fans, unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game. So, if the Jets unfortunately do get some injuries heading into this season, what's your thoughts of the depth chart? The people that are behind the starters, not really talking about Makai or George Fant or McGovern or Tomlinson or AVT, more so the people behind those players. So this is a graphic of every single offensive lineman that's on the roster heading into training camp. And then that is the picture of John Bender, our offensive line coach, for those wondering. So what's your thoughts of the Jets offensive line depth chart heading into camp?
Yeah, so depth is obviously very important, as we know as Jet fans, because injuries do come up. Probably feel a little bit better at guard than I do tackle. I like Nate Herbig as a spot starter. Like if a guard did get banged up and he had to start 2-3 games, I think he could come in and be fine. Dan Feeney, I thought was better at center last year than I was anticipating, but he's more someone I want to hang out with than watch play football for my team. Respectfully, like seems like a great guy, electric personality, but don't love him having to start for this team. At tackle, I like Max Mitchell. I think he has developmental upside. Obviously, Jets took him in the 4th round this year. Beyond that, though, Chuma Doga and Connor McDermott don't really leave a whole lot for me to get excited about. We've seen, unfortunately, probably a little bit too much of them. Unless Connor McDermott's catching passes, I don't really want to see him on the field either.
Yeah, so the depth is there. There's a lot of players, and obviously these are not going to be all the players that head into the week 1 against the Baltimore Ravens, because there will be roster cuts. There'll be a final 53-man roster. But I think some of these players have a chance to make the practice squad. So it is interesting to see the depth going into training camp and who's going to be winning those battles in the trenches. So now when it comes to the offensive line in general, Matt, I got a couple questions for you. If everyone stays healthy, we don't have to worry about those depth that I just brought up. What should Jets fans' expectations be in both the pass and the run game with those 5 guys that are right here? Is this offensive line potentially going to be the best it's been in years? Are we expecting things through the roof in the run game? What's your thoughts if everything goes our way in terms of health?
Yeah, dramatic improvement all over the place on offense, because I mean, you know it so well. You talk about it all the time, is the trenches and how much Joe Douglas believes in them. And a good offensive line, or what could be a great offensive line, I think they have the potential to be a top 10 unit if all these guys are healthy and play to their potential or expectation. I think they could be very, very good, and then that makes life easier on your 2nd-year quarterback, which is the ultimate goal. You have more time for the wide receivers to get open. You have more time for the tight ends to get open. You have bigger holes for the running backs to run through. It's a trickle effect. So I think that would be it would be perfect. And that's why Joe Douglas has invested so much in this offensive line, is because he knows the impact that a good offensive line can have on an offense. To me, I've talked about it a lot already on this show here. Run game, I expect dramatic improvement. And in the passing game too, I think we'll see it. Obviously, I'm trying to temper my expectations with Zach Wilson just being a 2nd-year quarterback. And, I think he'll take a step forward, but I don't know if I want to say like he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the league in year 2. I would love it, but I don't know if I'm ready to go that far. Run game, though, I think is going to be tremendous. I think they'll run the ball a ton.
Yeah, I think the run game is going to be something where Jets fans are going to be like, wow, especially with the additions of Brees Hall to this backfield with Michael Carter and Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson and all those guys. It's going to be really fun to see this team run the ball. But I also feel like I'm excited to see the pass protection when it comes to this offensive line, because it's all about protecting Zach Wilson. If George Fant is at left tackle, is he going to be able to replicate what he did last year? Even if he takes a step back, I think that's going to be okay, because what George Fant did last year was so amazing. And then getting back into Makai Bechten, Matt, people need to realize how great of a rookie Makai Bechten was. Now, was he perfect? No. Do you expect any rookie offensive tackle to be perfect? Absolutely not. He went up against elite talent as a rookie like Aaron Donald, like Nick Bosa, like Joey Bosa, and absolutely showed up like, I am a top tackle in this league. So the only thing that's going to hold Makai Bechten back is injury. So let's see what he can do. Hopefully he can get out there on the field. But Jets fans' expectations with this offensive line, if healthy, should be through the roof because of the one big time addition in Laken Tomlinson, because he's going to be that guy that really is the biggest, solution to the puzzle. If you think about it, the offensive line's biggest weakness heading into this offseason was what? Right guard. What does the Jets do? They go out there and get a Pro Bowl guard and slide our potential Pro Bowler to right guard. So the AFC East, if you look at the division wise, I really feel like we have the best offensive line. And I've heard that from even Patriots fans, even some Bills and Dolphins fans admit that the Jets offensive line is absolutely stacked on paper. And especially with the run first offense with John Benton as the offensive line coach, the run game is going to be really fun to watch, especially with the guard duo of Laken Tomlinson and Elijah Vera-Tucker. So Matt, who do you think is the biggest X factor of this offensive line? If you had to pick one player that is going to be pivotal to the success of this position group, who's that going to be?
I think it's the guy whose jersey you're wearing. I think it's Makai Bechten. I think that's the obvious choice here, at least to me, because obviously this is such a cliche term, but it's a make or break year for him. If he comes back and is injured again, well, that's questions going forward, because I mean, he missed a couple games as a rookie, missed the entire season last year. And if he gets banged up again for a 3rd year in a row, that's worrisome. But if he comes back and gets even better from where he was as a rookie, everyone's saying he's in the best shape of his life right now. We saw the talent there in year one. If he improves on that, then this line is just that much more scary. So to me, he's really the X factor, and it's the health that we talked about.
Is the easy answer, but it should be the only answer because he is the X factor of this offensive line, in my opinion. I cannot agree more with that. So, if there was a big concern with this offensive line, whether it's one specific player, one area, or a depth or scheme, anything, what would your biggest concern be heading into this season with this offensive line?
I guess it would be the depth beyond the starters because, like we talked about, for instance, like if God forbid Makai Bechten gets hurt, how comfortable are you throwing in potentially Max Mitchell, who's a 4th-round rookie, in to start? Or do you slide Elijah Vera-Tucker, who played tackle outside, and maybe put in one of the guards in his spot? I guess his versatility can, create some unique opportunities for the Jets if injuries do come up. But they don't have a Morgan Moses, which they did last year when, there was an injury right away to Makai Bechten. Morgan Moses comes in and he was great. He was fine. He was exactly what the Jets wanted. So I don't think they're as well equipped for an injury like that as they were last year. They had that guy ready to go to plug right in. I don't know if they have that at tackle right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think the depth at the offensive tackle position is definitely thin. We had the luxury of having Morgan Moses last year, and people need to realize if it wasn't for that Morgan Moses signing, where would this Jets offensive line be last year with Makai Bechten going down to week number 1? That was absolutely Joe Douglas he needed to make a move, and getting that swing tackle in Morgan Moses is huge. And we don't not have that veteran guy. We have Max Mitchell, we have Chuma Edoga and Conor McDermott behind Fant and Bechten. So let's hope that we can stay healthy because that is definitely the biggest concern with me as well, Matt, is the depth beyond the offensive tackle position. Now, my last question for you, which is when I thought of this question, it's really interesting to think about because what is your thoughts of the position of the offensive line for the long term, right? Not looking at 2022. You're taking a look into 2023, 24, 25 when it comes to the young talent, the draft picks that we have, and the contracts of this offensive line. What's your thoughts of this position group in the long term?
So for me, I think the only definite piece going forward is Elijah Vera-Tucker because the Makai Bechten, I love him, but the X factor is the health. So like that, you can't write that in stone. George Fant's going to be a UFA. Conor Mcgovern's coming up on, needing a new deal eventually soon. And you sign Laken Tomlinson, but he's, a little bit older as a veteran. So you don't know how much longer he's going to be here. My guess would be, I think Makai is going to be fine. So Makai and Elijah Vera-Tucker, I think, will be here for a long haul. I think the Jets should extend George Fant, who they seem to really like a lot. So my guess would be that they extend Fant and keep him as their left tackle, and Makai Bechten ends up being the right tackle of the future. To me, the one spot that I think is going to change coming soon is center. I don't think Conor McGovern is going to be here long term. I think potentially after this year, they look for a replacement there. Laken Tomlinson signed a 3-year deal, I think. So he should be here for those 3 years. Beyond that, I don't know if he's going to be 33 at that point. I guess it depends on how he plays over the next few years. But long term, I like the idea of Fant, Bechten, and AVT. And then you're probably going to be looking for a new center after this year, and we'll see about Laken in a couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the balance that Joe Douglas has added to this offensive line of veterans and draft picks, like Makai Bechten being the rookie in his rookie year, AVT having his rookie season last year. This year was the first time in Joe Douglas's tenure that he did not draft an offensive lineman with any premium pick. He waited to the 4th round for Max Mitchell. So I like that he was aggressive, got his offensive lineman in free agency in all 3 years. And I feel like the long haul, this offensive line position, Joe Douglas has a plan. He knows what he's going to be doing in the next couple of years. It's not really clear because, like you said, George Fant is due a contract after the season. He can walk in free agency if we do not give him an extension. Same with Conor McGovern. So the only players that are really on this team contract-wise next year is Laken Tomlinson, AVT, and Makai Bechten. Outside of that, we have Fant and Mcgovern that are entering contract years, so we'll be seeing what's going to be happening with those 2 players. So, Matt, I really do appreciate you hopping on to break down the Jets' offensive line. It was a lot of fun. I feel like Jets fans' expectations for this position group should be really high because we know that Joe Douglas came here to do one thing, not only to build this franchise properly, but to build an offensive line as a former offensive lineman of his own. I had a feeling that he's actually going to do a great job of building this offensive line for the long haul. And we're in year number 3. The vision is finally becoming reality of Joe Douglas's offensive line. So you have any final words about this offensive line heading into 2022?
They're going to be good. Don't sleep on this offensive line. Don't, say, oh, we're biased because it's the Jets. This is going to be a good unit. I can't wait to watch them on the football field.
I cannot wait as well. Please stay healthy, everybody, on the offensive line, and just go dominate. All gas, no break. And let's go Jets. Matt, always a pleasure having you on, my man. Make sure you guys check out Matt O'Leary's channel. That'll be down below in the description. Stay tuned for more Jets content. We'll be posting my next position breakdown video tomorrow, and stay tuned for that. Hope you guys have a fantastic day, and let's go Jets. Peace out.